in the letters. We get a lot of letters.
All right, kick it.
Yeah, it's like 40 of them this week, so we're gonna spend some time on this. First one's from Jessia Dado, and the subject is question for podcasts. What's up, guys? I'm Josh from Pasadena, California, and I've become a big fan of the show. You guys do a great job. Question for Konnan. I recently watched a Nitro where Eddie Guerrero came out and did a shoot on Eric Bischoff one out of his contract, and him saying, I quote, "I'm throwing coffee on myself," unquote. Did Eric throw coffee on Eddie, and what happened between them?
That's somewhere in our archives, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find that on the, as Konnan said earlier, Keeping It 100 official YouTube.
Okay, we go into great detail on that, but just to give you a small little answer, basically, and I remember this very vividly because it happened in El Paso of all places, and at that same time, I was in a big fight with Eric over taking Ray's mask off. We had just gotten into an argument, me and him, and then Eddie came out and he was furious. And I actually told, this is how much heat there was back time, how much cutthroat it was, and how much I loved Eddie. I was like, Eddie, if you want me, I'll make sure somebody touches Eric for you tonight. And he was like, no, please don't do that. I used to hang out with some shady guys in El Paso, and he knew who they were. And so, it was very contentious.
The MS-13 gang members.
No, but
Latin Kings.
They are people you would not want to mess with.
Right. Well, I'm gonna see that you're involved in gang activity. It looks like so.
I have no problem with
It's
that.
an accusation.
So what happened?
So Daddy told me not to do it, so I didn't.
No, but what happened? The question was about Eddie and Eric, not about you and Eddie.
Yeah, he threw coffee on him, and
right.
and so when he told me that, I was pissed off because I had just gotten into an argument earlier that day.
Did you know what Eddie said?
He wanted to leave the company.
Eric to throw,
he wanted to leave the. He wanted.
Yeah, but you know the
he was
verbiage?
like, if you're not going to use me, if you're not going to do nothing with me, let me the f- go. You're not doing with me, and I'm not happy here.
Okay, but that
he wanted his release.
Okay, I'm aware of that. But my question is, do you know what Eddie said? Because that would not cause Eric to throw coffee on him.
I wasn't in the room.
I
was outside when it happened.
Okay, right.
So he goes, and Eddie was like,
been some type of.
He was like, "Can you believe this? He just threw coffee on me." And I was like, "What?"
So okay, but you know what? He's a hothead. Okay,
right.
And I'm wondering what came out of Eddie's mouth that triggered Eric to
right.
It must have been kind of intense,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So but we never know. We've never known what those words were. I was
right. I wasn't in the room when it happened.
Right.
Well, from my recollection, Eric has said that he didn't throw coffee on him, but he gestured wildly and hit a cup.
No, Eddie wouldn't make that.
Yeah, I mean that's what Eric says on his show.
You know what? I could see that. Okay, because I could see Eric with a cup of coffee in his hand, yelling maybe the motion.
Maybe it spilled on him, or I don't know.
Right. It spilled.
Eddie was not happy, and that's all I remember.
But I'm just wondering if Eddie said something that triggered Eric.
Probably disrespected him, and Eric went off.
Right,
and
exactly.
He'd already gone toe to toe with me, so he was probably already pissed off about that.
Right.
And who knows what else?
Well, because this story is kind of like everybody's heard this story,
right?
And the story is just the basics of Eric threw coffee on Eddie,
right?
So you get the visual picture of that. You think okay, here's Eric throwing coffee. Okay,
right?
That's not. Right. It's probably not what happened. There's way more to the story. What verbiage was exchanged? What actually happened? But but nobody ever really talks about the details of exactly what happened there. All they talk about is, Eric threw coffee on Eddie. And then you just get this basic visual picture of him just chucking coffee on him and splashing, a whole cup of coffee. But bro, the coffee's hot.
Right.
You throw coffee on somebody, that's
it's scalding. Right.
Bro, maybe I punch you. You throw hot coffee and it hits me in the face. Well, what's my move?
Well, maybe it hit him in the arm. I don't know.
Right. We don't know the exact details, but I would Joe, when you get a chance, ask Eric about that. If he could be specific about what exactly happened there, because I'd like to know that. I think everybody should know that. It's okay, let's get the exact story of what actually happened instead of okay, just this basic thing. Eric threw coffee on Eddie Guerrero. So I don't know. All right, what else we got here? Next one's from Kevin.
But the great thing about Eric and I, is just we've matured and we've changed and we've moved on from that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I like Eric.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Eric, you guys might find this interesting. Di maybe more so. It's I don't know if you guys know this, but on 83 Weeks, he buries Raven a lot, right?
Does he really?
He says he didn't get the character and like that, but he just did a Raven episode, and they're going to actually record together tomorrow. It's like a face-to-face for the first time since 1999 or whatever, Eric and Raven tomorrow. Yeah, so just find that interesting, yeah.
That is interesting, because, well, let me be honest. Raven was, we were friends with the guy, but Raven was a pain in the, the whole time. I was like, ever since I've known him in WCW and TNA. Yeah, and then in Impact, he's very difficult to work with. Like I get along with him and stuff, but he's not. He's very. He wants things done his way. He's convinced he's right all the time, and it's just like he's difficult to work with. So I could definitely see Eric having difficulty. Bro, Konnan used to see it. Bro, Raven was constantly arguing with Sullivan over his.
Not just that, bro. He had the same problem in Impact.
Right. He just constantly arguing over the way he was booked. He wanted to be the champion. He wanted to be the number one guy, and he would push for that.
The one thing we can't say about Raven is he was very smart and he was very passionate, passionate.
Very talented.
But he was his own worst enemy.
Right. Because here's the problem with Raven, okay, is he wanted his spot. Yeah. Like he wanted to be the number one guy here. But it's like, dude, you're doing a lot of drugs.
Right.
It's like, dude, you take a lot of pills. You're constantly inebriated. Like we can't give you the ball and run. Right. Like if you have all this baggage. Right. He just never understood that. He's like, that's the way he was. It was like, that was the critics of him had definite reasons for criticism. Kid did too much drugs. And then he wanted a top spot. Like you can't send that message to the locker room. And that was his problem. But no doubt he had the talent and the mind to have that spot. He was all his matches were always good. His character was very well presented. He always, he was outside the box on his interviews, but they were usually very good. So and he was booked well. He fought for a lot of stuff. He was actually booked pretty well. So
yeah. Well, I got something for you here. Eric's going to talk about the coffee thing from 83 Weeks here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, how did you find that out?
I just looked it up real quick. Hang on, I got to change.
Oh, you looked it up?
Yeah, like my speaker.
Okay, so we're gonna play this right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
That ever lived. You felt so strongly about him that you once threw coffee at him. That's been well established. You admitted to it here on the program. It was not.
I didn't admit. You're making shit up, Meltzer. What are you? You've been reading so many dirt sheets now. You're starting to become one on this podcast. That's. I didn't throw coffee at him. I threw coffee on the floor and it incidentally splashed on him. It's not the same thing. Don't get me into this again. That's how this narrative starts. People like you. Hey, you once admitted that you threw coffee at Eddie Guerrero. That I never did.
No, I know you didn't. It was just fun. I knew it would get you fired up.
Why do you do that?
It's just fun for me. I don't know.
All right, we get it. So let's go. Right,
listen, I'll tell you what.
You were right.
Yeah, he threw coffee on the floor and it splashed on Eddie and it hit Eddie. So it's like, Eddie's story is like, it is true. He threw coffee on him, but the visual picture of him chucking the coffee at him is like not the thing. It's he threw the coffee on the floor, it splashed.
That sounds worse than it really was.
Right, exactly.
But he was mad at the time.
Both were mad.